There was another explosion I felt through my hooves. Dealer! Dealer! Can you hear me? I asked, looking around. Nothing. I hated waiting. I wanted to go find P-21 and the others, and wanted to make sure Sanguine wasn't trying anything with my body. Instead, I just sighed and stroked Boo's ears as an army of robots slowly chewed their way through this place. The remaining 3 blanks popped open, one after the next. I found an extension cord in a maintenance closet and led them slowly into the fusion room. They simply stood by, blinking and looking around dully. "Blackjack!" Rampage squealed as she ran in. Her hide marred and power hooves blackened. "We've got big trouble. Tell me you're almost done." P-21 and Psycho Shy followed after her. "We're down to 1 Balefire egg, and they've brought a robot that's just sawing its way through everything in front of it. They're chewing through the doors that we've dropped." "How long do we have?" I asked. "Before everything's overrun. 20 minutes? Maybe." P-21 replied as he looked the way he'd come. "We've decoyed them into the security wing. They're picking over it now. The distribution area is completely gone. They're probably caving their way into the harvesting area now." "They're what?" I gasped, and turned to race after Sanguine. I didn't have time to explain things as I backtracked to the room with the bloody tables. Acrid smoke filled the room from the far door where the prismatic beam was slicing a circle through the thick metal. I saw the still forms on the bloody tables, mostly still forms. One filleted-looking unicorn still drew breath. Okay, suddenly the whole spare parts thing went from stuff I needed to what the fuck. He'd skinned my copy alive. I tried to think of some way to kill myself. The Psycho Shy would take care of it, right? First things first, though. There were 2 blood-smeared white crates at the feet of the tables. "Get those, P-21!" I yelled, pointing at the white crates. They had straps that would go around his neck. Not ideal, but I'd rather he had them than Psycho Shy. "Where's Sanguine?" Psycho Shy yelled as she flew into the center of the room. I was glad the massive Manicore had departed. "Getting his family," I yelled back, pointing a hoof through the door at the pony-sized stasis pods. Now would be a good time to tell her to... Maybe Rampage could do it. Then I heard a mare scream. She heard a look and darted inside. "Sunflower! It's me, Trueblood! I'm here to save you! To save you!" The ghoul cried desperately as he tried to hold the thrashing mare. She didn't look that far from a ghoul herself, her orange hide mottled and burned-looking. Near the pods were 3 yellow hazmat suits long ago discarded. In 2 other pods, one unicorn colt was curled up in the fetal position, his eyes wide and staring. The other cried and screamed for his mommy and daddy. They weren't much better off. "Get away from me! Get away!" she screamed as she beat on him with her hooves. "Trueblood!" she wailed. What had she expected waiting for 2 centuries? "Ma'am, please! He's trying to help you!" I yelled. She took one look at me and let out another scream of horror. All 4 hooves kicked out at once, knocking him away as she jumped out of the pod. She was coughing and choking, but hysteria had given her the strength to fight and run for safety. Too bad we were the safest things in this place. She levitated up the fetal foal, who trembled in shock, and the other jumped to her side. Together they ran for the door, yelling for Trueblood and their daddy. Then they caught sight of Rampage and P-21 lugging 2 bloody boxes and skidded to a stop. "Hi," Rampage said, waving a sparking power hoof. P-21 nodded, tugging the brim of his hat. Sunflower just gasped as she slowly moved around them. Her breathing was becoming far more ragged, bloody froth creeping down from the corners of her mouth. "Sunflower, we're here to help you. Please!" wailed Sanguine plaintively. "I love you. Please!" he begged. Psycho Shy just turned away as she hovered there, clenching her eyes shut as her hooves shook. "P-21, dart them!" I said. We had no time to waste, but the blue buck looked at the bulky containers and his saddlebags and then gave me a look, asking exactly how he was supposed to do that. Then the trio scampered past him into the organ collection room. "Oh, for the love of..." I growled as we raced after them. We didn't have time for this. I had no idea if we'd have the time to fuse then, even one of his family members at this rate. From the memory, it didn't take long to combine a cockatrice with a pony, but wouldn't we need more unicorns? Or maybe they'd streamlined the fusion process. I spilled out into the harvesting room, and the mare just sat there, staring at shock at the bloody tables. Look, you need to calm down. Stay back! Sunflower sobbed as she hugged her colts close. True Blood, where are you, True? She wailed. I glanced at the door. That prismatic beam was almost through. Suddenly, the glass separating the pods from the harvesting room shattered as Psycho-Shy flew through, and pounced on the sobbing Sunflower. You stupid cunt! The yellow mare snarled. There's your True Blood! There! She said as she pointed a hoof at the ghoul. She gritted her teeth as she trembled, clenching her eyes shut as tears ran down her cheeks. He's fought for 2 centuries to bring you back, and healed you, and you're fucking it up! He loves you that damn much, more than any pony else. So calm the fuck down, let him help you, and have your family! Sunflower stared at Psycho-Shy for a few seconds, blinking and then coughing before she looked at the ghoul. Shrew? Is it you? Isn't it? Psycho-Shy flew away, turning her back on the scene. I couldn't blame her. Sunflower. Sanguine breathed, and for a moment he wasn't a monster. He was just a pony, an old and tired and desperate pony whose long's nightmare was about to be over. Maybe he didn't deserve it. Maybe he'd bought that happiness with misery and blood. But he had it. Then the door gave way. The slab of steel fell into the room, and a deafening clang that made us all freeze, and enrolled a 4-legged, rainbow-painted behemoth. It was almost as big as the tank we'd faced earlier. A beam cannon pointed at us, glittering and flashing, while on its other side whirled a Gatling gun that looked more sized to firing grenades than bullets. When you see an Ultra Sentry, you'll know it, and then you'll die. The prismatic beam sliced diagonally towards Sanguine, and I magically yanked him back to prevent him from turning into magical vapor. I had no clue how my horn had just managed that without popping, like a 5-watt bulb, but I didn't have time to contemplate it. I was running on a little, but panicked now. Get out! Get out! Get back to the fusion room! I screamed. Rampage and P-21 wasted no time running for safety. Get to storage! There's a tunnel out of this place! Sunflower was another story. She stared at the machine in horror, holding her children to her in terror. I tried to hold Sanguine back, but he thrashed free. The ghoul raced towards his family as the Ultra tracked his motion with a Gatling grenade launcher. I extended a hoof in a futile gesture, as if I could somehow magically pull them all to safety. But I couldn't do anything. The grenade launcher began to boom, firing a burst less than a second. I swore time seemed to enter Sats, as Sanguine held Sunflower. At least they had this moment to go together. Then a yellow flash dropped down and grabbed them tight. Wings lifted and pulled and tore him away as microgrenades struck the family. In an instant, just an instant, they exploded into a shroud of shrapnel and transformed into 3 bloody lumps. Sanguine stared down as she hovered there, then let out a scream only an undead throat could make. It wasn't a word, it was a single jagged note of utter despair. I'd never seen a ghoul go feral before, but I was pretty sure this is what it was like. Psycho-Shy and I raced back, the Pegasus struggling with the wildly thrashing ghoul. I saw the dealer standing beside the door that led to the fusion chamber, and I yelled, "Close the door!" as we passed through. The door immediately hissed, the 2 sides sliding horizontally towards each other in the middle of the Ultra Sentry as it rolled after us. It fired its prismatic beam into the wall where the door emerged. There was a mechanical squeal of tortured metal. The door halted, leaving a hoof-wide gap in the middle. The Ultra Sentry proceeded to cut out and bend the metal away. Sanguine, please! Psycho-Shy begged as she faced off with the deadly, undead monster. He spewed noxious pink streams at her that she barely dodged. You don't need them. You can start a new life with me. Please! She begged as she backed off, The ghoul simply hissed as he drew his breath. She closed her eyes, her yellow hide blotched in places where his breath had burned her. But Sanguine wasn't looking at her anymore. The ghoul stared at the 4 copies, himself and his family. Psycho-Shy was forgotten as he stepped towards them, his eyes wide and cloudy. He sat down, staring at the floor. Boo left them, rejoining me as she looked on in confusion and bumped my shoulder with her head. Slowly, I approached Sanguine and swallowed. Sanguine? But he didn't answer. He simply looked at the 4 copies, a pony who had lost everything. Another pony sucked dry by his horrible place. As much as I hated him, I felt sorry for him too. Blackjack! Rampage shouted as she raced in from the copy room. We're screwed. The storage room is filled with robots. Hundreds of them. I've never seen so many before. And then there went our way out of this place. The door to harvesting was slowly peeling open as the Ultra carved its way inside. I looked at Sanguine staring at the copies, ignoring Psycho-Shy as she sobbed brokenly. True blood? I spoke softly. We were such a nice family. Don't we look nice? He whispered. Sandalwood. He pointed to the tan colt, and the brown one. And mahogany. Sunflower wouldn't let me name them anything with blood in it. He sniffed, shaking his head. They're such strong, clever boys. Just like their father, I replied. He shook his head firmly. No. Better than their father. Much better. I'm sorry it turned out this way, I said quietly. I should have talked to you. Told you why. I shouldn't have done what I did. Not that, he said in a hoarse whisper, like a ghost. I should have given you a chance to tell me, I replied. True blood, we have to get out of here. The rail line is cut off, so the only way through security and Flim and Flam's escape tunnel. Is there another way out? He didn't answer. Then he said softly, in production. There's a shaft going down. There was a pipeline for flux. It went to a red tunnel. There's a lift. You can get out that way, I suppose. He paused and murmured quietly. Such a nice family. I stared at him as he gazed at the copies of his lost family. If I forced him to go, like Psycho-Shy had, all I'd have done was left the thrashing feral ghoul. At this point, there was only one thing left to say. Goodbye, True Blood. But he didn't respond. I suspected he would never say another word ever again. It had taken 2 centuries, but the hoof had finally caught him.